Pokemon Go, hugging a QI elf, and great Auntie Beryl. This is Staying In. Did I tell you about the time when I was a kid and we went to visit my great Auntie Beryl?
Right. Right, immediately I'm on board, Chris. I'm on board. Go on. What happened in your Beano story of a life that meant that you went to go and see great Auntie Beryl? Go on.
Well, we did it like once a year or so. We'd go out, she lived down in Windsor, and we'd go down there, and for some strange reason my parents, I think she was quite into like stuff being neat and tidy, so we had to kind of act very prim, proper, correct, which is why my dad in his wisdom decided just before we arrived outside her house was to go and get the car washed. So we pull into the car wash, and I had it like in my hand, I think I got it like in like a cracker or something, or maybe in a free in a copy of a Beano, a stress toy, one of those squeezy stress toys. And I remember I was squeezing it, I was tying it almost in knots and wringing it almost like a dishcloth until it went poof, and basically, for those who don't know, inside one of these stress toys, you think it's just it's basically glue. Let's be honest. So my hands are actually stuck together, and my little sister next to me, she tried to pull my hands apart, and she ended up getting her hands stuck to my hands. And then my brother either side of me tried to pull her hands away from my hands, but he ended up getting stuck. So all three of us had our hands stuck together in the middle of one of the worst places to be, in the middle of a car wash. There's nothing we could do about it. And that was also the same time my brother hadn't wound up the window properly, so foam was coming in through the passenger windows as well. Just a complete odyssey of pain. So we turned up at Auntie Beryl's with our hands stuck together with like suds inside the back of the car. Hilarious.
I think.
Dad, like all of that was amazing, wasn't it? Like, I don't know what happened there. I don't know what happened. So I was out this weekend, wandering through lovely Bristol, enjoying the sun, having a lovely time out with my partner, and we were wandering about, and from the horizon I see swarms of people heading towards me. Swarms and swarms of people in town. This is heading down Park Street as I head up Park Street. Lots of people heading towards me, and I thought, oh, maybe there's a march on. Like, Bristol's quite a politically motivated town, politically engaged. Maybe there's some sort of, lads' day out, hen night kind of a thing. It's a bit early for a hen night, but because this is middle of the day.
And those aren't really for lads.
And they're not really for lads. And no, it was a whole bunch of people on their phones playing Pokemon Go. And
wow.
I had... there must have been, no joke, about 50, 60 people, like, just in procession. And Alex and I, we've been playing Pokemon Go a little bit. I've not been playing it as much as she has. But she was like, oh, that's really weird. Loads of people playing Pokemon Go. Why is that? And she flipped open. It's not 2004. She unlocked her phone, and she unlocked her phone, and it turned out that Park Street in Bristol has become this mecca for people dropping lures. And lures in Pokemon Go they're like one-off items, and you drop them in a specific geographical location, and for X number of minutes and hours, I think, they attract wild Pokemon to them. And obviously the whole point of Pokemon Go is you want to catch as many Pokemon as you possibly can. And all up and down Park Street in Bristol, it's just people dropping lures left, right and centre. I don't know whether or not it's the shops doing it or just people doing it. It's become like one of the roads in Pokemon Blue or Red or Yellow. It's like it's actually become a place in Bristol to walk up and down just collecting Pokemon. And that's what these people were doing. They were just en masse collecting things. I had no idea. I mean, I knew it was big because Pokemon Go's become the most played game and most successful mobile game in whatever. Like pushing Clash of Clans and Game of War and all these absolutely massive, flagpole, oh my goodness, this is free-to-play mobile gaming. It's pushed all of them out. I had no idea it was this big, though. Like, and seeing all of those people, oh my word, it was a little bit frightening. It was a little bit like, why is I don't know, like it was like video games crossing over into the real world, and somehow my brain just couldn't quite comprehend that. Oh yeah, this many people playing this game, and this game being specifically location-based gaming means that I'm gonna see more of this sort of stuff in the future. But it was absolutely, it was shocking. Have you got? I mean, is that something that you guys have experienced?
Yeah.
I mean, you guys have been playing bits and pieces.
I mean, like where I am in Liverpool, as you say, Pete, we have our own kind of park lane. It's the promenade by the Mersey, and I was walking there last week, like you, in the sun, and I was actually on Pokemon Go, and I realised I got to a point where I looked up from my phone, and there were lots of people kind of surrounding me, and I realised we were kind of in a hot spot.
Right.
And I caught about 5 Pokemon in one area, and all the other people doing the same as me, really, all catching the same kind of Pokemon. And you kind of look up and you kind of nod your head and smile at each other, and there's this kind of it's kind of what these social anthropologists call communitas. It's where you have these very short, spontaneous communities that erupt almost out of nowhere and then are gone. Right. They're not organised; they just happen. And there's something, it almost kind of like that game company's journey when you meet and walk with somebody. You've not arranged to do that, you just meet and walk, and that's it. And you can't track that person down, it's fleeting. It's a brief encounter. You were saying that, like, you didn't realise how big a hit it would be. I don't think Nintendo were, because for the first few days, because I managed to get it through various means a week early, so I was using it in the UK. There was an article in The Independent which tells you how to do it.
Yeah, I love the way that you were sort of a little bit coy about that. As if
I know.
Like, I got it a little week early. And,
So, like, but then when it obviously debuted in the UK, I mean, it took me about days of trying and get onto it, because the servers were just pushed to their maximum, and it was very hard to get in. I know a lot of people had teething problems in the early stages, and they have promised Nintendo to fix those server issues. And there's been lots of articles written about it, the negatives of it are people staring at the screen versus the positives of people going out and exercising. I mean, a guy we went to uni with who doesn't really exercise, he's just put up on Facebook, he's walked 100 kilometres because of this game.
What?
In total. 100k from playing Pokemon Go.
Jeez Louise.
And it's extraordinary that actually it's kind of doing what all those kind of interesting augmented reality apps like Zombies Run, which I've published on, and I'm very much interested in games that happen in the real world. This gamification of everyday spaces, it turns the cities into these ludic places where you can the city becomes a playground. And there have been some unforeseen and quite dangerous aspects of this game where people have actually been using lures and things to actually mug people in real life.
Really?
Yeah, people have been mugged through Pokemon Go. There was a child who found a dead body through Pokemon Go.
But this is the thing. Like, isn't this just like the more people who are out and about in a dangerous wide world, the more people are going to get injured? I mean,
yeah, of course.
But this to me, this is exciting. This is people exploring their environments and their habitats. Like, I see some of these like bad news stories and stuff like that, and actually I get really upset by it, because I just think to myself, like, video games can't win at the moment. It's like, it used to be when Pokemon came out, it used to be, Pokemon full of demons, and like, it's, anti-Christian, these worshipping these pocket gods or whatever. And then it was like, oh, kids staying indoors, playing video games and not going out and socializing with their friends, and kids not understanding what it is to own a pet. And then, like, Pokemon has all of this stuff, and then suddenly Pokemon's like, right, do you know what? We're gonna create this game where you have to actively go outside and be a part of a community. And then people are like, going outside all the time, spending all their time on their phone, and while they're outside, why can't they just enjoy nature? It's just like this. I don't know. Like, I find some of these. I've been trying to ignore all of these bad stories. I think all of these good stories just kind of get, like, this 100k thing. That's fantastic. These kids who are in hospitals at the moment who can't get out and play Pokemon Go. People coming along dropping lures outside their thing. That's an amazingly generous act. Like, I've been playing Pokemon Go, and I think I think it's fun. Like, I drop in and out of it, and it's quite enjoyable. I know Alex is really into it. I think it's okay. I'm fascinated by it as to what it's doing in terms of gaming and society and that sort of stuff. Like, how's it affecting London, Dan? Have you been wandering around and like catching London? I mean, I'm assuming like coughing is mostly what you get in London because of the smog.
Yeah, that's exactly how it works.
Is it how it works?
I mean, I've had a go of the game. I must be one of the kind of the few people who doesn't really get it. I obviously get it in the sense of I understand what it is. It's not in any way made me want to go out and about and do all exploring and stuff, because I don't feel like I'm exploring local areas.
You haven't wanted. Well, why aren't you exploring? You should go out and explore, and you should go and see what's nearby you.
But what I mean is, if I'm going to find a Pokemon, I'm not exploring areas because I'm just looking at my screen and taking me to a certain place. I'm not exploring. But to get to your question, what's interesting is that people are asking, because obviously I play games, so I know about this stuff, and obviously just through kind of curiosity, I automatically download it to see what it's about. But you find people who never play games suddenly are interested, and that's what it's been really interesting for. That people who they have no interest in the gaming culture, suddenly it was a similar thing that you had with Candy Crush when that exploded. That suddenly my parents were playing Candy Crush, and they still play Candy Crush. They've got to like some insanely high level. But I've been sat with people at work, and that conversation has come up because I work in an office where I'm pretty much probably one of the youngest in the office. So a lot of the people in the office are older than me, and most of them don't play video games and stuff like that. So the fact that they're sitting there talking about video games and what is this Pokemon Go, how does it work, all that stuff, that's really interesting. I've not seen what you've seen in terms of masses of people. That could be just because I'm not in an area that for whatever reason, as you say, for whatever reason, that particular street has become a hub where people are dropping lures all the time, and maybe just there's not been anything around here. But it's a really interesting thing to have all these different non-gamers suddenly playing this one game, and the fact that this game in particular is the one that's done it, that does encourage walking around. And I love that idea. When you explain to people this game, and they say, well, okay, well, how do you go and get them? And I was like, you have to go and get them. Yeah, but how do I do that? Like, literally, you have to walk there.
You've got to leave your house.
Yeah, you've got to leave that. Because, for example, if you look at something like, on YouTube, you can watch videos which are 360-degree videos. So you look at them, and you have to move your phone around to get a whole look at the whole room. So it's very interactive. It's a really cool piece of technology. But you've also got the option of just using your finger and scrolling around the screen and moving it around. So there's a cheat that you don't actually have to do the work of pretending you're actually in the space. Pokemon Go doesn't have that. There's no option for you to have a control pad that you can move. And people just... It's funny watching people come to that realisation that I have to walk to the end of the road. That's really weird. And I love the fact that, I mean, obviously I don't know how the system works, but hypothetically it's based on, say, a Google Maps style thing where named places become things. So they're either a shop or they're a gym. So you go to the pub at the end of the road and it's a gym. That's amazing. That's such a clever idea. At first, when I saw it, I was like, wow, the pub at the end of my road is a gym. I wonder if they've had to pay for that or something like that. And then I realised, it's just pick things up off.
I also really love the fact that you find certain types of Pokemon in certain areas, and it's all based on geography. So, for example, round my way, we get a lot of Drowsies. So we get loads and loads of I don't know why. Like, it's a slightly sleepy area. Maybe it's something to do with that. But further into town, just by one of the art galleries, there's lots and lots and lots of pigeons that cluster there. And strangely enough, you find lots of Pidgeys as well. Except for there's a big... so then if you wander further down towards the water in Bristol, it becomes more water-based Pokemon.
Yeah.
And apparently there are, and I don't know how true this is, but like, apparently there are some Pokemon which you're just not going to get unless you go to a different country or a completely different area, for example. So like Diglets, the little, they look like sort of, I don't know, they look like whack-a-mole things. Diglets are like this part of the original 150 Pokemon. Small little ground-based Pokemon. Apparently they only really reside in arid areas, and that's within the fiction of the game, but also in our world as well. So you've got to go to slightly drier locales to find a Diglett. I just find that absolutely fascinating, and I think the ultimate thing about all of this, and I can't wait to find out what this is, but I cannot wait now for us to go to Scarfell Pike, because I'm going to find out what's at the top of that mountain. What Pokemon am I going to get at the top of Scarfell Pike?
You'll probably get there and you'll have no reception. And your 4G won't work, and it'll be very disappointing.
I think, to answer your point, Dan, because there'll be a lot of people listening to this who have been a bit turned off by the idea of Pokemon Go, where it's because they don't like that idea of a game, or secondly, that it's just because everyone's raving about it, it'll put them off. But there's something quite interesting in the fact that, like, I don't actively go out and look for Pokemon. I won't change my route. Like, some people will go out in the morning, they'll go out and look for Pokemon and come back. I actually just, if I'm somewhere and I'm waiting and I'm killing time, I think, oh yeah, I'll just out of an idle curiosity, I'll see what's around it. Like, I went, where did I go? I went to a park last weekend, and the person I was with, their bike got a puncture, so we had to get the train back. So we're waiting at the train station, and she was like, okay, we'll just see if there's any Pokemon here. I was like, okay. And what you've got in the game, as you're aware, is that as well as finding Pokemon as well as gyms, there are also places where you can find the Pokeballs, spare Pokeballs, which you throw to catch the Pokemon. And you spin this little disc, and usually these places are located in little landmarks in your area. And it was like the Liverpool Plate. I was like, what the hell's a Liverpool Plate? And I looked, and inside the waiting area for the trains, this artist had done this thing that had been commissioned to this artist. And I would never have known that was there if it wasn't for Pokemon Go. And I read up about that artist, I looked at the painting, and it's really interesting how it doesn't seem random. Like we were on a street the other day, and like on this huge, lovely street in Liverpool, Bold Street, the two places it chose to get Pokeballs, one was Help the Age UK, and the other one was Oxfam. These two it wasn't like a big corporation, it wasn't the Starbucks across the road, it picked these two places for you to go to flock to get your Pokeballs. And I don't know if that was a coincidence or not. There's something very interesting in here, this ethical way of mapping. And I'm very interested to see how it's going to affect people's movements. I also love the idea that you might get a Mew on somewhere like the Isle of Wight. All these people all over the world just bombard this tiny little place.
That is an interesting thing, of the idea of playing it and then suddenly you'll be like, oh my god, people have been looking for this around the world and I found it. That's a really cool idea that theoretically could happen. But I did have a conversation with people the other day about it, and while some people were getting it, other people weren't, and they thought perhaps it was a bit better than it was, and they were like, so what happens? So if there's one appears in the office, does it hide behind the desk? I was like, it's not that complex. It doesn't know exactly where it is. It doesn't hide behind a desk and kind of move your stuff. So I had to kind of explain the basis of it. It's literally projected onto your camera to make it look kind of cool.
Yes, so that's another thing. Unfortunately, I've got a phone that doesn't have a gyroscope, so I can't use that augmented reality feature. I can't actually see the Pokemon in the wild through my phone. I just see it on the map, which is a bit of a shame, but actually it hasn't really detracted from my enjoyment of it.
Kris, the other day I saw a picture on Twitter that you did that I actually... Was it on Twitter or did you see it on Snapchat? I don't remember. Which I didn't question because I knew I was talking to you, so I wanted to ask you then. You were wearing a motion capture foot.
Yes, I managed to get a gig helping out a PhD student at a university working in biomechanics who wanted to monitor different people's foot movemms. And so I turned up and I was told to wear skin-tight fitting stuff. That's why I didn't send you the full photo. Thought it'd be a bit odd.
Yeah, sorry, hold on a sec. So you're on Craigslist, and there's somebody says turn up.
Very common for motion capture. That's how Andy Serkis did it.
Where's something skin tight? We're going to put some balls on you. Is that what you?
Yeah, that was it. These little dots, and it is like they have in the films. So they cover these little dots, and they're at particular points anatomically, like where your joints are and stuff like that. And it's really quite cool. It's like they have in the films. And you walk into this kind of lab, and there are all these cameras surrounding you on the floor, and there's cameras up on the ceiling, and they're all just tracking your movements. And I spent about an hour and a half just running back and forth while they were tracking the movements of my my foot. And one thing I didn't realise was that these things are kind of held on with sellotape, and actually, it's not very. You kind of feel obviously you feel self-conscious because you're wearing skin-tight stuff. And randomly they put me in a sports bra as well, which I thought was a bit odd because there was no reflectors on that or dots, so I think that might have been a prank. and I was running back and forth for an hour and a half, and occasionally these little things would ping off me. I'd feel them go, and they'd fly across the room, and I had to go and grab them. They'd sellotape them back on. And afterwards I went to the computer and I watched my
Are you
kind
sure
of
this
stick leg.
wasn't-
No, it was legit. I'm going back again on Wednesday.
So were you seeing the like, kind of the joints moving, kind of how your toes move?
Yeah, exactly, like everything, because they'd put like motion capture on my toes and things, so I could actually see my toes moving as I was running, which was really cool. And I've got very long toes; they're like fingers. So it was a really interesting process.
I think we've talked about this before. You and your finger toes.
The unthinkable has happened.
Go on.
I'm genuinely excited for a Sonic the Hedgehog game in the year of our Lord 2016.
But which one?
Sonic Mania. Because whatever the other Sonic one is, that's, like, not to be disparaging, but Sonic teams had 15 years to balls up that franchise. And Christian Whitehead, who is just, to me, just understands what Sonic the Hedgehog is. So he was responsible for doing the ports of Sonic the Hedgehog 1, 2, and I want to say...
Sonic and Knuckles?
Sonic CD. I want to say Sonic CD, actually, on iOS. He basically took Sega's original version, the mobile versions, and they just weren't brilliant. Like, they had slowdown. It was like, what? Anyway, so Christian Whitehead, he took those and did versions himself that were sort of a little bit naughty for the original one. And then I think the story goes that Sega got in touch with him and basically said, can we just use your version and make it official? And he was like, yeah, cool, do it, whatever. And then he did number 2 and then Sonic CD, which was really, really wanted. He's involved in Sonic Mania. And Sonic Mania, which got revealed at that god-awful Sonic event that was at San Diego Comic-Con. Sonic Mania was like the best thing at that event. Like, just looking at it going, oh, you're making an old-school 2D Sonic game, and it looks like it's fast, but not super fast, and it looks like it's the old-style visual graphics before Sonic 3 sort of made things made Sonic slightly smoother, slightly more lean. It looks like they just... Oh my god, it looks exciting. I've not been this excited about a Sonic game since the advanced titles.
I couldn't tell if it was kind of the old Sonic games slightly revamped, or with some new sections, or was it completely new?
It was a little bit mixed message, wasn't it? It was like, here are the old things, and also a whole bunch of new levels and concepts that we've had, and it sounds a lot, actually, like Sonic Jam, which was... Sonic Jam was like a collection of all of the Sonic games on the Saturn, and it was done because Sega basically knew they wouldn't have a proper full-on Sonic game for the Saturn. So, like, well, if we compile all the other ones, then we can get away with it, and fans will be happy. And indeed, they were, because Sonic Jam was a really good collection. It sounds a little bit like that. It feels like a celebration, maybe, it's 25 years, hooray! Let's celebrate, Sonic's really fantastic old stuff, and then maybe where he might be going, 2D wise in the future. I mean, I'm genuinely surprised that I'm actively excited for a Sonic game. Every single time that they've done an announcement, I've just been like, who cares? Like, they're just going to ruin it again. But Christian Whitehead being involved just makes me go, brilliant, yeah, yes, like, bring it on. I really want to see what you do with this.
You know what, actually, it's a really weird thing to be excited about. And it's probably a really geeky, nerdy thing to be excited about. But when I kind of saw the reveal of it, I got really excited about the idea of it being on my big widescreen TV. So not having to worry about it being put into the 4:3 kind of ratio, being put into that full 16:9 widescreen, filling my TV the way it would have been when I first got it. When I first got it, I'd have had a 4:3 TV. That's the way you'd have played it. The idea of just having that on a widescreen, I was like, yeah, that looks awesome.
And they're not hiding any of the pixels. They're not doing any of that. They're not doing any of that rounding off the edges. It looks like they're celebrating the fact that there are pixels here. And I love the idea of 1080p pixel art, but properly old school, but with new animation. Like, that just, to me, that just says, yeah, this seems like a project where somebody at Sega gets it, Like, they just go, yeah, let's make a Sonic game for the old school Sonic fans.
But for every person at Sega that gets it, there's another person who thinks, no, we need a grittier Sonic. We need a Sonic that's fighting a resistance, which is where we come to the other game.
Where we have Shadow the Hedgehog. I think it was pretty clear that Sonic Mania at SDCC was meant to be you're the hardcore fans, you totally get this. This is I'm sure it'll be, fun for kids and all that sort of stuff, but this is kind of for the fans that grew up with it and played those old school games and understood what those games were all about. Arguably where Sonic was at his best. Whereas the other game, which has been announced for Nintendo NX, PS4, X1, all that sort of stuff, to me that just says that to me will be their next Sonic boom. That will be their next, okay kids, let's franchise the hell out of this. That'll be their next big title like that.
Well, it's coming from the guys who have actually made some half decent next gen Sonic games. I mean, Sonic Colors was very popular.
Absolutely. Sonic Colors was a good step in the right direction. I think Sonic Generations was a good step in the right direction. I still didn't quite like what they did with the 3D stuff, but like Sonic's been getting gradually better, and there were some pretty low points, but like gradually Sonic's been getting very, very good. And of course we also forget the fact that Sonic Advance was very good. Sonic on the 2DS Sonic games were very, very good as well. The two original ones.
Sonic Rush.
Sonic Rush, Sonic Rush on DS was really good. Like, I think that there were a whole bunch of Sonic. There was a 3DS one as well that was actually quite good. There's been plenty of okay Sonic games, and I'm really glad that somebody at Sega is at the helm, and they're making the franchise Sonic, which is we need to sell toys and duvet covers and magazines and all this sort of stuff based on Sonic the Hedgehog. Therefore, we need a game to keep this license going. That's fine. What I'm super excited about with Sonic Mania is, to me, Sonic Mania doesn't feel like that. It feels like a Sonic game for the older crowd. If like they're just going, yeah, sod it, why not? Like, it's 25 years. Let's see whether or not the fans who have been shouting about having an old school Sonic game, if we get somebody who actually knows what they're doing in regards to that, then maybe we can give them to that. And if it's actually as popular as people say it's going to be, then yeah, we can follow it down. And if not, then it's the 25th anniversary. We've done this big celebration. We can write it off as a nice experiment.
Did you see the trailer for the third Sonic game?
No.
For me, with Sonic games, since the early days, Sonic has either gone down the Sonic Adventure route, which is 3D, which is super, super fast, kind of to the point where you're not even really playing the game anymore, it's playing it for you. Or they've tried to, if you look at something like Sonic the Hedgehog 4, episode 1, episode 2, it was 2D, but it was tried to be next gen, and it didn't really work. Yeah. So they've always kind of struggled with those two things. Now, the other Sonic game that was announced was Sonic Lego Dimensions. Did you see that?
No, I didn't hear anything about that.
Yeah, Lego Dimensions have got Sonic. So they're making that game. Now, it has, in the kind of the gameplay trailer, it does have all the different things that you'd expect from a Lego game. The kind of the stuff where he's moving backwards and forwards within kind of the perspective. There's little mini games. There's ones where he's in a cart. There's kind of almost like micro machines aspects. There's bits where he's flying around in 3D. All the stuff that you'd expect. However, there was a few shots, and it was only a few shots, so I'm not getting overly excited, of a kind of a 2D element of him running around that felt like, this feels the right level of weight, this feels like the right level of speed. You're leaping around the level, which is a 3D level, but you're going from left to right. It is like a 2D platformer, but it feels really nice. I mean, obviously, there's elements like the fact that Sonic is a Lego character, which is a bit jarring. But he seems to be going quite fast, but not too fast. It was just when I saw it, I was kind of like, you've seemingly nailed what's been missing from that part of what Sonic was, that 2D left to right scrolling screen. You seem to have got that. Take a look at the trailer, because it was really interesting.
I'll have to, yeah. Dan, is this your way of telling Chris and I that you're going to get into Lego Dimensions, because I can't go there with you?
No, I'm not going to do that. I will watch trailers to my heart's content, but I'm not going to be delving into that rabbit hole.
When I was stressed last year, I actually went back to my parents' house and actually brought back with me all my old Lego. And I just had it in my flat. And, like, you know, I was waiting for, like, the kettle to boil. I just, like, build a few things.
Like what? What would you
And it
build?
was just really quite
What can you,
stressful.
Chris? What can you
Well,
build in the time
classic,
it takes?
the thing about it is,
made?
I mean, Dan, I don't plan these things. It just started off this kind of really interesting kind of tower, just developed.
So was it an ongoing
different
project that you
layers.
only made whilst the kettle was boiling, or would you have to make
Kind
something
of.
during that 45-second period for a kettle to boil?
Well, again, like, you know, like I keep repeating it, but like kind of like Pokemon Go. It was just whenever I was there, I'd see some blocks and think, oh, okay, I might add that. I could see that there. I felt like a little bit of an architect in my kitchen, and it was just quite nice and quite relaxing to have that there. And you know, do you have that? Sometimes you go back and think, actually, I'm gonna, because I know Sam, for example, there have been times when he's gone back and read like Roald Dahl books. You know, there's something quite nice and nostalgic about that.
When I get ill, I tend to watch watch SpongeBob cartoons that I watched like years and years and years and years ago while I was at university, or sometimes I'll like try and find, you know, episodes of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles online, or I'll watch Transformers or something like that. Like, there's something comforting in the old. And actually, one of the other things I do is I always I watch My Neighbours the Yamadas, which is my favourite Studio Ghibli movie. I think there's something comforting in the safe and the known, where you just go, I'm not feeling very well, or I'm a bit stressed out. I'm just going to watch or do something that I know is very safe, and yet still engaging my brain to some degree.
It's the equivalent of wrapping the duvet around you, isn't it, really? Yeah, I had the same with the Batman animated series. I'll put that on occasionally. I mean, A, it's a masterpiece, but B, it's that same kind of comfort. What about you, Dan? What comforts you when you're ill? We've already established that you wear 2 layers of clothes.
I think it's films. I'll look over my collection of films and I'll stick something on. I won't. What would I watch? I think it'd just be some kind of random action film. The Marvel films are great for that. That I can just stick them on. I mean, even if I'm just trying to fill some time, I watched Ant-Man the other day just to fill some time. And I had a great time.
Just to fill some time?
Well, I was at
2.5
home on my
hours.
own. My good lady wife was out for the day, and I was sitting there, and I was kind of like, I'd already played some video games. So I was like, don't want to do it. I'm not going to go outside and play Pokemon Go because it's too hot. So I'll just stay inside. What will I do? I'll watch a film. What film shall I watch?
I'll just waste 2.5 hours.
Well, it wasn't wasted because I enjoyed myself.
Oh, okay, fine.
Well, Dan, you must be surely excited about the new Marvel stuff that's just come out at Comic-Con. Doctor Strange, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Spider-Man Homecoming, Black Panther, the announcement for Captain Marvel, The Defenders, Luke Cage, Iron Fist. A real panoply of Marvel stuff.
I mean, I did because I'm not fully up to date with all of the Defenders stuff. So I am nearly finishing Jessica Jones. Because of me not finishing Jessica Jones, I've held off on the second season of Daredevil. So I didn't watch those because I didn't want to spoil anything.
No, you don't need to. You don't need to.
I don't need to.
You can watch. I've just finished the second series of Daredevil. It doesn't intersect with Jessica Jones.
Yeah, but if I'm watching Jessica Jones, I'm not going to start watching another thing at the same time because I'd rather get over with that. But I won't start. I haven't watched any of the trailers for the new stuff because I haven't finished either Jessica Jones or Daredevil season 2. That's why I've not watched any of that. I don't know if they haven't released anything of like Guardians of the Galaxy, have they? I know stuff was shown, but they haven't released it.
Yeah, they showed stuff, but all you've got is descriptions of things, really. I mean, the main thing is that Kurt Russell, which everyone kind of knew about, Kurt Russell will be playing Peter Quill's father. But he's playing an interesting character. He's playing Ego. I think that's the name of the character. Who's basically, in the comics, Ego is essentially a planet that's got a consciousness.
Cool.
And in the film, he'll be the humanised version of that. So his father is essentially a planet, which is very interesting. Interesting how they're going to do it.
I'm super excited for all of that stuff. Like, Marvel has... I realised this the other day, actually. Have you noticed how, basically, Marvel, the way they seem to divvy up what becomes a movie and what becomes a TV series, is most of the TV series stuff is essentially enhanced humans. That's how the Sentinels used to refer to them in the Sentinel stuff in the X-Men. So, like, Spider-Man is an enhanced human, Daredevil is an enhanced human. That stuff tends to be a TV series where it's a person who has been enhanced in some way, that they're, you know, bulletproof or just incredible drive, or can have enhanced hearing or something like that, drink a lot. And then in terms of the films, it tends to be the super over-the-top superhero kind of thing.
CGI stuff as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But they've been absolutely knocking it out of the park. I'm just absolutely in awe of all of the stuff I've been watching on Netflix. From, you know, I've finished season 2 of Daredevil. That was absolutely incredible. I've started watching Jessica Jones. It seems like that's going to be really great.
That's brilliant.
I'm really interested to see where if they move the. Supposedly there's a Punisher series coming. Luke Cage could be really, really interesting. Iron Fist could be awesome. Like the Defenders then coming together. I'm not 100% sure on what the Defenders is, because I think Defenders is basically like a rotating.
It's basically like a neighbourhood watch style version of the Avengers. It's located. It's like a neighbourhood rather than
but there's
the
lots
country.
And lots of different Defender
lineups.
lineups.
It's like the Avengers. The roster does rotate, as you say.
Right. Okay.
And obviously that'll allow different subsequent Marvel TV series to kind of be added into the mix. Same like in the films at the moment. The current Avengers is very different to what it started off as being.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And, I'm just... Yeah, like, I would have thought I would have got sick of it by now, you know? Like, I would have thought that I would have been bored of, another series, another Marvel TV series, who cares? But actually, I keep looking at it going, these are all just really brave choices. Like, not to want to get, like, too overtly political on any of this sort of stuff, but having a lead comic book series for TV that has a lead as a lady who is not overtly sexualized, and 2 people of colour, like in 2 individual series, that's not bad. Like, that's actually pretty brave, which is sad to say, but like in the 21st century, that's pretty brave decision making from Marvel there, and I think that should absolutely be championed. And every single time I see this, I just think to myself, this is fantastic. Not to besmirch like what DC is doing, but when you look at DC stuff, all of it is, you know, white dude, middle class, gets powers, like, or runs into trouble or whatever. Like, that tends to be DC's stuff. Whereas with Marvel, they're taking risks. They're like saying, okay, here's, you know, a black guy who is from the wrong side of town, but is not being treated as a horribly stereotypical, you know, like gang warfare kind of a type character. Looks like they're going to have people from all walks of life in that series. Like Jessica Jones, a woman who is not overtly sexualized. She's a woman who's actually pretty troubled, like has a lot to work through. You look at the way that they've handled the Punisher in Daredevil, and they've gone much further down the Punisher Max series, which shows a character who is not a likable character that you just want to get behind, like this vigilante who's just misunderstood. He's just a horrible person who you sort of think is a hero. Like, they're making really interesting decisions in this way. I really look forward to what they're doing with Iron Fist. From what could have been some pretty mediocre TV series, they're actually being pretty brave and doing some stuff that you just don't see in normal television, let alone like superhero-based TV adaptations.
Well, I think probably it's the same with the TV as it is for the films. Is they're just making really good decisions about who they put in charge of these things. They put really interesting people who are really creative, and not just people who maybe do big effects really well, or do set pieces really well,
or can bang out a TV series. The
entire thing throughout all the films, all the shows, pretty much since it started with Iron Man, maybe not Incredible Hulk, but we'll pass over that. It's all been character based. The heart of every single film has been the character, and you can't say that. How about stuff that was in the past with Marvel, whether it was Hulk, the original Hulk with Eric Bana? They tried to make, but it became just a big green man, as he tends to do. But that you couldn't say that film actually succeeded in being effectively telling a good character story. It was trying to, it just couldn't do it. Whereas now, what's interesting is you have these people who are producing, who are directing, who are writing it, that are very knowledgeable about the source material. They know what the history of them. So they know why Jessica Jones is a good character. They know all the history about that. So they can use that, and they can delve into that and pick into it, and they know the beats of which to do. That's going to give an audience who have no knowledge of her, a good understanding of her, but also the readers of the comic, give them the little nuggets that, we know that the people making this know what they're doing because they've given her that moment.
It feels authentic.
Yeah, it's not just this is a picture that was in a comic. Look, we've replicated it on screen. That's proof that we've read it. It's giving them character beats that show we understand. We've read this. This is the character that you've read. We understand her. That's how we've written her in the show as well. I think that's what's really standing out for them.
Actually, it's really interesting. Like I was expecting, because Marvel are pretty safe pair of hands. Their plots tend to be overall, broadly speaking, tend to be quite similar, with the exception possibly of the Winter Soldier, end of a gigantic climax, a possible end of the world kind of scenario. But I was actually more excited. Well, dare I say, maybe excitement's too strong a word, but I was generally more intrigued by DC, particularly Wonder Woman, and what Patty Jenkins has done with that character. And it was just a joy for me to see colour in a DC film, like something that wasn't just a monochromic kind of palette. It was quite colourful. It was quite lovely to kind of look at. It looked like they got in comic book terms, they got a very good inker behind it all. And I'm very much interested in that film. Even the Justice League as well. Oh my word, there was a little bit of humour, a tiny bit of humour in the Justice League stuff they showed us as well, which hopefully, unless that's the one joke in the whole film.
Well, to be fair, I recently watched, because I spent a lot of time not watched Batman vs Superman, and I watched it recently, and part of me wanted to jump up and down and go, yes, when they have the one joke in that entire film, which is in the trailer, it's the I thought she was with you, just like, give me a smirk, that's all I need. And I was like, thank God they've kind of jumped on that with that Justice League trailer, that it very much feels like, okay, you like the funnies, let's give you more of those.
It's because maybe it's because we didn't see Superman in it, because he's a bit of a vacuum.
Very much.
So. That's not necessarily the actor's fault. That's generally the character that they've
pretty much a vacuum as well.
No, I don't think that's the case with Superman as a character. I think Superman as a character has the opportunity to do a lot of different things. Like he's actually quite touching and quite funny in some of Straczynski's work. Like Superman Grounded, for example. He's not laugh out loud, belly laugh hilarious, but he's not the po-faced, super serious,
well, you look at
late
Christopher Reeve.
90s. Well, yeah, exactly. Like there are elements of humour to the Superman character. I just think that it's that age-old thing of we're making superhero things, therefore it's got to be ultra gritty and realistic because that's what's worked previously. Whereas you look at something like the Avengers, and actually a lot of it's very funny. Like same with Guardians of the Galaxy. Obviously, that is action comedy kind of stuff. But I think there are jokes to be had within Justice League. I'm sure there are. Like there's some very funny, quirky characters, and in fact, even Batman's got some laughs to be had. There are some in the Justice League. He is the sardonic one. He is the one who is making the this is all going to go very badly
deadpan kind of
sort of stuff. I think there is space for humour, and it's nice to see a little bit of that starting to peek through. I'm really hoping the DC stuff starts to start to make their films a lot more like their TV series, because the TV series work has been much better than what they've been doing movies wise.
Well, they've had their course correction that they've talked about. That kind of after Batman vs Superman, there was a course correction, some changes up top, which you kind of knew they were moving towards. They saw the kind of the reaction that people are already having to Suicide Squad, and thinking, okay, that's what actually people want, that slightly more lighthearted, because Suicide Squad it's not that it's not gritty, because it looks quite gritty, but there is that slightly lightheartedness to it, and that's what they seem to have been kind of bringing in as well. Which I'd say with Marvel, they kind of their base level is comedy. They start that because they know that's an easy access point to everyone. If you nail that, then you can add on all the glitz and all the explosions, and at the end of it, if there's a funny quip, doesn't matter if you've got bored by the explosion, you still have a little snigger at the end, and that's where they sit.
So I went to the theatre last week, a tiny little theatre in Liverpool called the Lantern Theatre, great little space. And as you're aware, being, former drama students, as we were at university, a lot of people, when they've created a theatre show and they want to take it to the Edinburgh Fringe, before they take it to the Edinburgh Fringe, they do a thing called previews, where they'll present it in small little theatres just to try it out and see how it sits with an audience and may make some, last-minute tweaks before they take it to Edinburgh. And I listen to a podcast, and I know you do, Pete. I think you do as well, Dan, called No Such Thing as a Fish.
Yep.
Brilliant podcast. It's like it's presented by the QILs, and QI is this fantastic quiz show in the UK and the BBC. It's all about being interesting. It's all about trivia. It's about just knowing random things. And the people who are researchers for that show, they create a podcast where each week they each present something interesting they've discovered that week. It's basically like a fact every 30 seconds, and it's a really interesting podcast. And one of their number, Andrew Hunter-Murray, is also a very talented performer with an improv group. And he's doing a one-man show, which is currently going to the Edinburgh Fringe this August. So check it out there. And I heard it was happening, and the theatre's literally about 10 minutes walk from my flat. So I thought I'd go and see him. And I went there, and it's a fantastic performance about a pub quiz. And he's this quiz master that's doing a quiz that's basically dying on its arse. It's sponsored by funeral directors, so between each round he has to do some kind of sponsorship thing about them, which is basically a quote that's really, really kind of miserable and bleak, like from Nietzsche. And remember, folks, once you stare into the abyss will stare back at you. And the prize at the end of the quiz is a tombstone, which is on stage throughout. It's a fantastic show. I don't want to spoil too much about it because it's really interesting. And basically, the audience is cast in different quiz teams. At the end of each round, he reads out your score. There's no real audience interaction in that sense, but it was just a really fun night. It's about an hour long, and there is audience interaction, and it resulted in me going on stage with him at the end and essentially doing a tiny little bit with him and hugging him.
You hugged him. You hugged Andrew Hunter-Murray?
Yeah, it was part of the show kind of thing. I spoke to him afterwards, and I was saying thank you for his show, and how it was I really enjoyed the podcast. QI and that, No Such Thing as a Fish, one of the things that really helped me through my PhD because it's light-hearted banter and it's really interesting, and he was really genuinely touched by that, and it was quite cool thing to say.
But you got to hug him. What does he? Okay.
What does he smell like?
Yeah, what does he smell?
I don't know. He smelled of trivia.
When I think of him, when I listen to him, I just think I think he smells like sort of nice warm biscuits.
He's a very lovely chap. He's a really lovely chap, and it's a fantastic show. And any listeners going to the Edinburgh Fringe, you should check it out. It's absolutely brilliant.
So they're touring at the moment. Those guys they do their podcast live every once in a while. I'm sure we'll get there at some point when we're big and famous. They tour around theatres, and they do live versions of No Such Thing as a Fish. And I missed them when they came to Bristol last time. I was absolutely kicking myself. And the only time I found out that it was on was when they were like, this time live from Bristol, yay! And I was like, no, because I wanted it. And actually, I'm sort of jealous of you now, Chris.
It was brilliant, honestly. You should check that show out if you go into the Edinburgh Fringe. I mean, he's got one of those fantastic brains that he can just improvise very fast on the spot. There's improvisers so talented that you think everything's scripted, but it is just him thinking on his feet.
Have you guys started going down because we're all 30 now, right?
Yes, we are.
I think the biological clock is ticking, and I've started making really bad dad jokes. So, for example, I was talking with somebody at lunch today.
You've been doing that for years, Pete.
And they were saying, no, but I mean really bad. And I was talking with somebody at lunch today, and they said, oh, you watch the first couple of episodes of this thing, but after that it really goes downhill fast. And I said, yeah, it's just like the Winter Olympics coverage. Apropos of nothing. It didn't even contextually really work.
Doesn't make sense.
It was just like, it goes downhill really fast, and I went, that's like skiing! I know, I'll make a joke about the Winter Olympics! I was just like, when you turn 30, do you suddenly have to... Maybe this is my body's way of telling me that I should be a dad soon, because it's just saying, you're making these shit dad jokes, why not create offspring so that you can embarrass them in front of their friends with them?
I think important point to make, Pete. Just so you're aware that is not a good indication of how and when you should become a parent. That's not the litmus test. I don't think. There are other things, you'd probably want to consider, before you think, parenting, I'll give that a try.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not talking from the voice of experience here, but I'm kind of guessing that my parents didn't suddenly decide they wanted kids when my dad said, actually, that joke I made, nobody laughed. Let's have kids.
That was Staying In, with Peter Willington, Dan Frost, and myself, Kris Darby. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review on iTunes, or wherever you get your podcasts. Visit stayingin.podbean.com for more information and links to the comics, movies, games and more covered in this episode. And come find us on Twitter @StayingInPod. Thanks for listening.